Let's look at the different movements of the shoulder joint. So we'll start off in a neutral position. If we turn the shoulders outward, that's actually external rotation, and that's called the anatomical position. So that's not the same as neutral. If we bring our palms by our sides, this is more neutral. And if you keep on going, internal rotation, external rotation, internal rotation. And now let's bring the arms into the overhead position. Shoulder flexion is what this is called. External, that's internal. Good. This gets very confusing very quickly. 90 degrees abduction. Internal rotation, external rotation. Internal, external. Okay, and now just hang out there and retract the scapula. This draws the shoulder blades closer together. Protract, as if you're pushing things away from you. Retract, protract. And this can be done with the shoulders externally rotated, internally rotated, or neutral. Let's look at shoulder extension. So when someone says extend the shoulders, they usually are using this word improperly. This is actually extension, and we tend to couple that with retraction. If someone's quite tight in the chest or shoulders, they might get stuck with more protraction. So retraction and protraction. Very good. Retract the scapula. Protract the scapula. Notice the upper arm bones moving with it. So this is really common. We retract the scapula, and it's natural that we externally rotate as we do that. Protract the scapula. It's natural that we'll internally rotate the arms. So now we're going to abduct the shoulders again. Retraction, protraction. See the difference? Very good. Retraction and protraction. Now look what happens if she rotates her shoulders in to bring her hands behind her back. This is what we do for binding. So it's a protraction. The shoulder blades spread out in order for us to bring the hands back to bind. She can even take her left hand all the way to her right hip. And now she's in there, she can retract. And this might actually help her turn her chest to the left side a little bit. So notice how we tend to use some of these movements in the scapula to help turn the rib cage, even though there's other muscles that are doing more of the actual turning. So now we'll look at shoulder abduction. Inhale, abduct the arms. And now we'll retract the scapula, drawing the shoulder blades closer. And now protract. Good. Externally rotate your shoulders and internally rotate. So with practice, we can actually do these movements independently. Now go ahead and reach the arms forward as if you're in a high plank. This is full protraction. Push, push, push. Her spine is actually rounding into flexion as she does that. And now let's invite a little bit of retraction. More retraction now. So you can start to see the scapula pinching. That would be a dysfunctional high plank, but we could use a little bit of that in the bottom of a low plank, or say in the back bend. And now bring your arms behind you as if you were going to interlace the fingers. So someone who's really tight would tend to have the shoulder blades spread and might have a lot of troubles. They'd benefit from a strap. Sophia's not that kind of person, so go ahead and interlace your fingers, Soph. And now she's going to retract her scapula to really open her chest. And if you try to lift your hands away from your spine, you're getting even more shoulder extension. And this is one of those movements that most people have lost in their bodies if they've been sitting at a desk or being sedentary or doing too many push-ups and bench press and not enough diversity of movement. She's going to go into protraction. And now full shoulder flexion, maintaining protraction. You're probably going to be protracting the whole time. We'll externally rotate. So now we can see external rotation with scapula protraction, and now internally rotating. External rotation with protraction, that's it. And now internally rotate. So we can see how the shoulder blades don't really work the same in the overhead range over 90 degrees. So we can see from the rear view now, this is shoulder flexion, the overhead movement. And if Sophia was to have her palms facing each other, her shoulders are probably externally rotating. If she keeps going in that direction, so the little fingers get closer and closer, we're more and more in maximum external rotation. Now let's slowly move towards neutral. Stop. So that's more like a downward dog position. Some people like to go more externally rotated in down dog, and so as that happens, the index finger knuckle naturally tends to uproot. And some of us like to root the index finger knuckle by creating a slight internal rotation in the shoulder. And this is a major point of confusion in yoga in general. So she can keep internally rotating, and at some point, her shoulder will probably hike up to her ear. So go and internally rotate as much as you can. Try it out, see what happens. So probably not a great position for bearing weight, but if it doesn't hurt and there's no weight on her hands, it's not really a big deal. And then let's go back to neutral. So let's lift the shoulders as high as possible now. This is called shoulder elevation. You can see the shoulder blades are lifting up. This is also okay in downward dog and other weight-bearing positions. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. That looks pretty, but it's potentially dysfunctional in downward dog, so keep that in mind. Really common cue is draw the shoulders away from the ears, but that doesn't create a more stable position at all. It actually creates an unstable position.